Morning, folks.
Good morning.
Flying more. All right, who have we got? Ian in person, Corey in person, Christian, not yet. Brendan, present. Hayward, present. Troy here in person. Nate, virtual. Chip, virtual. Sterling, virtual. On Darius, who has the birthday coming up virtually. Only person we're missing is Christian. I feel like he'll show up. Well, we're also missing Eli. He's always late. We'll give it a minute. We'll give it till the tardy bell. How's everyone doing? Good.
Pretty good.
Pretty good. What are we doing today again? Oh, yes. Okay. My internet connection is unstable. I just got a note that says that. Ooh. Okay, well, hopefully it won't kick me out. If it does, one of you will temporarily become the host until I can get back in. Oh, wait. I think I just accidentally messed up. No, I didn't. Christian is trying to join. It's probably my unstable. Told you that might happen. Who did it make the host? I got kicked off for a minute there.
Oh, back.
Ooh, I gotta stop this AirPlay. It makes me quiet. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're gonna get started, and I told you guys that we would have some time in class to work on our modern day pilgrim assignments today, and we will. First, we're going to read a little bit more, and then I'm gonna kind of explain what tomorrow is gonna look like, because it's gonna be a little bit different. And then I will let you guys work on your stuff. And we're just gonna hope I don't get kicked out in the meantime. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen so that we can all look at the Canterbury Tales, but obviously you can open it on your own thing and it will be totally fine. Actually, quickly, let me see where I'm trying to get to today. 486. Okay. Okay, so we left off yesterday here at line 319, or we're about to start line 319. If everybody wants to make sure they get that open or open their own copies, those of you who are in the room can open your own copies. I would have it posted up here, but it makes it really hard to hear everybody. It's really dumb. Okay, anybody want to read today at 319? Okay, I will read them. The last person we learned about was the cleric. So we're moving on to the sergeant at law. A sergeant at the law who paid his calls, wary and wise, for clients at St. Paul's, there also was, of noted excellence. Discreet he was, a man to reverence. Or so he seemed. His sayings were so wise. He often had been justice of assize, not sure what that means, by letters patent and full commission. His fame and learning and his high position had won him many a robe and many a fee. There was no such conveyancer as he. All was fee simple to his strong digestion. Not one conveyance could be called in question. Though there was nowhere one so busy as he was less busy than he seemed to be. He knew of every judgment, case, and crime ever recorded since King William's time. He could dictate defenses or draft deeds. No one could pinch a comma from his screeds. It's a new word for me. And he knew every statute off by rote, which is just like by memorizing it. He wore a homely party-colored coat, party color, like partially colored, girt with a silken belt of pinstripe stuff. Of his appearance, I have said enough. So clearly, this guy, the sergeant at the law, that's a pretty like serious position. But they're saying that he's kind of like kind of a dandy, like he dresses really well. And also he kind of pretends to be busier than he actually is. And one reason I want to point that out is because this is not the first time that this narrator has described a character who's like kind of opposite to what you would think a person in their position would be. Like we learned yesterday about the monk and the friar, and both of them were like more kind of frivolous than you would expect, like really fun people, but a little bit more like materialistic than you would expect people in the church to be. All right, so we're moving on to a franklin, which is a wealthy landowner. I'm not sure I would have known that. Oh, here comes Eli. Let's get him in here. Or try to get him in here. Hey, Eli, we just read like one small little section and we are moving on. So we're at line 341 right now. Okay. There was a franklin with him, it appeared. White as a daisy petal was his beard. Cute. A sanguine man, high-colored and benign. He loved a morning sup of cake and wine. That's very, like that's a very decadent breakfast. He lived for pleasure and had always done, for he was Epicurus's very son. And if we look over here, it tells us Epicurus, someone who pursues pleasure as the chief goal in life, as the ancient Greek philosopher Epicurus was supposed to have recommended. So that's, again, this is another person who's like pretty materialistic and hedonistic, always looking for like the good things in life, the fine things in life. It's a little less surprising coming from a wealthy landowner than from members of the church, but I think he's like very kind of open about the fact that these are the things I care about, like the finer things in life, like the Finer Things Club from The Office. In whose opinion sensual delight was the one true felicity in sight. As noted as St. Julian was for bounty, he made his household free to all the county. His bread, his ale were finest of the fine, and no one had a better stock of wine. His house was never short of baked meat pies, of fish and flesh, and these and such supplies. It positively snowed with meat and drink, and all the dainties that a man could think. So he might be materialistic, he might enjoy the finer things in life, but he shares it with pretty much everybody in the county. I mean, he's very wealthy. He's almost like a Gatsby-esque kind of person, which I don't think you guys read that last year, but according to the seasons of the year, changes of dish were ordered to appear. He kept fat partridges in coops beyond, many a bream and pike were in his pond. Woe to the cook unless the sauce was hot, and sharp if he wasn't on the spot. And in his hall a table stood arrayed and ready all day long, with places laid, as justice at the sessions none stood higher. He often had been member for the shire. County's representative in his parliament. I thought we were making a Hobbit reference for a second. A dagger and a little purse of silk hung at his girdle, white as morning milk. As sheriff, he checked audit every entry. He was a model among landed gentry. Okay, so our next section, we actually have several characters: a haberdasher, a dyer, a carpenter, a weaver, and a carpet maker, which the only one it explains is a haberdasher, which is somebody who sells hats and other clothes. I would guess a dyer. I could be wrong. I think it also has something to do with clothes, like dyeing clothes. So these are all kind of like middle class working people. A haberdasher, a dyer, a carpenter, a weaver, and a carpet maker were among our ranks, all in the livery of one impressive guild fraternity. I just wanted to look at that. A uniform of a social or religious organization. So they're like all a little posse together. They were so trim and fresh their gear would pass for new. Their knives were not tricked out with brass, but wrought with purest silver, which avouches a like display on girdles and on pouches. Each seemed a worthy burgess fit to grace a guild hall with a sit upon the dais. Their wisdom would have justified a plan to make each one of them an alderman, a town councillor. They had the capital and revenue, besides their wives declared it was their due, and if they did not think so, then they ought to be called madam is a glorious thought. And so is going to church and being seen, having your mantle carried like a queen. So even though their wives are not actually with them, we kind of get a sense of what their family lives are like, because their wives are kind of like bugging them to be of a higher social order than they are, and like the wives want the recognition and to be like fancy and respected. They had a cook with them who stood alone for boiling chicken with a marrow bone, sharp flavoring powder, and a spice for savor. He could distinguish London ale by flavor, and he could roast and seethe and broil and fry, make good thick soup, and bake a tasty pie. But what a pity, so it seemed to me, that he should have an ulcer on his knee. As for blancmange, he made it with the best, which that's like an old dish that we don't really eat anymore. A thick chicken stew with almonds. I never knew that's what it was, but I'd eat that. The cook maybe so far might be like the most like what you would expect a cook to be. There was a skipper hailing from far west. He came from Dartmouth, so I understood. He rode a farmer's horse as best he could in a woolen gown that reached his knee, a dagger and a lanyard falling free, hung from his neck, under his arm, and down. The summer heat had tanned his color brown. So we talked about that yesterday. That means like you work outside, which sounds like he does. And certainly he was an excellent fellow, many a draught of vintage wine, red and yellow. He'd drawn at Bordeaux while the traitor snored. The nicer rules of conscience he ignored. If when he fought the enemy vessel sank, he sent his prisoners home, they walked the plank. I think almost a pirate. As for his skill in reckoning his tides, currents, and many another risk besides, moons, harbors, pilots, he had such dispatch that none from Hull to Carthage was his match. Hardy he was, prudent in undertaking. His beard in many a tempest had its shaking, and he knew all the heavens as they were, from Gotland to the Cape of Finisterre, and every creek in Brittany and Spain. The barge he owned was called the Madeleine. So, I mean, he's a skipper, obviously, like lots of seafaring stuff going on there. Let's move on to the doctor. A doctor too emerged as we proceeded. No one alive could talk as well as he did. I kind of like that rhyme. That's sort of funny. On points of medicine and of surgery, for being grounded in astronomy, he watched his patient closely for the hours when, by his horoscope, he knew the powers of favorable planets, then ascendant, worked on the images for his dependent. The cause of every malady you'd got, we know that word, he knew, and whether dry, cold, moist, or hot. He knew their seat, their humor, and condition. He was a perfect practicing physician. These causes being known for what they were, he gave the man his medicine then and there. All his apothecaries in a tribe were ready with the drugs he would prescribe, and each made money from the other's guile. They had been friendly for a goodish while. I'm not sure how to pronounce a few of these words coming up, by the way. He was well versed in Asclepius too, and what Hippocrates and Rufus knew, and Dioscorides, now dead and gone, Galen and Rhazes, Halley, Serapion, Averroes, Avicenna, Constantine, Scotch Bernard, John of Gaddesden, Gilbertine. Good Lord. So all of those are famous ancient and medieval medical experts. And it's not important that we all know how to pronounce them, except Hippocrates. If you've ever heard of the Hippocratic Oath, that's like what doctors take so that they are not allowed to talk about their patients without their consent. It's because of Hippocrates. That's why it's called that. Oh, look, here we go. Ancient philosophers and doctors. Very different from our doctor. I like his little skull on the bottom there. In his own diet, he observed some measure. There were no superfluities for pleasure, only digestives, nutritives, and such. He did not read the Bible very much. In blood-red garments slashed with bluish gray and lined with taffeta, he rode his way. Yet he was rather close as to expenses and kept the gold he won in pestilences. Gold stimulates the heart, or so we're told. He therefore had a special love of gold. Again, pretty materialistic. If we're taking special care to note that he loves gold, that's worth mentioning. This might be our last section that we're looking at today, which is, it has woman and Bath italicized, which Bath is a city in England, and it's where like a lot of people used to go there for like rest and to recuperate if they'd been sick, because they have like these hot spring type of things that people said were like very restorative for health. But this person is known as the wife of Bath, not just like Bath woman or something. A worthy woman from beside Bath City was with us, somewhat deaf, which was a pity. In making cloth, she showed so great a bent, she bettered those of Ypres and of Ghent. In all the parish, not a dame dared stir toward the altar steps in front of her, and if indeed they did, so wrath was she as to be quite put out of charity. Her kerchiefs were of finely woven ground. I dared have sworn they weighed a good 10 pound, the one she wore on Sunday on her head. Her hose were of the finest scarlet red and gartered tight. Her shoes were soft and new. Bold was her face, handsome and red in hue. A worthy woman all her life, what's more. She'd had 5 husbands, all at the church door. Just probably why we're calling her the wife of Bath, if she's been a wife 5 times. She's had 5 husbands, all at the church door, apart from other company and youth. No need just now to speak of that, forsooth. In truth, indeed. We don't say forsooth anymore. And she had been thrice to Jerusalem, seen many strange rivers, and passed over them. She'd been to Rome and also to Boulogne, St. James of Compostela, and Cologne, and she was skilled in wandering, by the way. She had gap teeth, said widely, truth to say. Easily on an ambling horse she sat, well wimpled up, and on her head a hat as broad as is a buckler or a shield. Wimpled is like, it's kind of similar to what a nun wears on their head, like the white part of it. She had a flowing mantle that concealed large hips. Her heels spurred sharply under that. In company she liked to laugh and chat, and knew the remedies for love's mischances, an art in which she knew the oldest dances. So she thinks she knows a lot about love because she's been married 5 times. It says both some positive and negative things about her, like the fact that if somebody crossed her, she would not be charitable to them. She makes clothes for people, but she's basically like, don't get me mad, or I either won't make you clothes or I'll like overcharge you for them. But the clothes she makes are like very beautiful and very fine. So that's actually where we're going to stop today. But I'm not going to stop sharing my screen just yet because I want to show you what you're going to be doing tomorrow and kind of explain it a little bit. Oh, it's just my Halloween playlist there. So tomorrow, the juniors are all coming to school to take the PSAT, and I am proctoring the PSAT. So our class won't actually meet tomorrow. Like, you don't have to sign into Zoom. You'll just all be counted present unless you don't do the work. If you don't do the work, then I have to go back and mark you absent. But I'm also like giving you a good bit of time to do the work. But this is actually a good time to kind of introduce what we're doing here, because a lot of times on Wednesdays, this is essentially what we'll do, except for the fact that we will obviously meet first. Let me publish this, and I will go ahead and publish this. And so if you guys want to work on it before class tomorrow, you have the ability. So I'm going to open this Wednesday discussion post thing. Oh man, I really don't want to actually download another copy. Hang on. Wednesday discussion posts. This is what this is. And it's essentially like directions for any Wednesday that we do this. This is what, this is the criteria that I'm expecting for Wednesday discussion posts. So on most Wednesdays during hybrid learning, our class for the day, our class work for the day will be to post in our discussion boards. I will have made an assignment beforehand, giving you a prompt to respond to for the day in the discussion post. It says this work is classwork and is to be completed in class. I'm actually giving you a little bit more leeway on tomorrow's than you would normally have because we're not actually meeting. So also, like, you're all writing your own discussion posts for extra points. Once another classmate has submitted their original post, you can receive up to 10 extra points by responding to their posts and engaging in meaningful discussion and conversation, which would be more than just like, I agree or I don't agree with their post. Ask questions, get involved, tell us why your experience with the text was different. So when you make your original post, each discussion post has certain criteria that it needs to meet. This is not like a quick write. It's not intended to be a quick sentence you can jot down in 5 minutes. You should put some real thought into what you're going to say and how you present your opinions. So you can use this right here as like a checklist for when you're writing your discussion post. It should be at least 200 words, which is honestly not very much at all. I have other classes that have to write 200 word things, and every time I wind up like pulling them into pages for a word count because it doesn't look like it'd be long enough, but it is. Does your post answer all the questions or every part of the question in the prompt? That's a very important one. Have you edited your post for spelling and grammar errors? That's part of the grade in this. Y'all at this point should know how to do that. You should know how to proofread your own work. Have I conveyed some new original ideas other than just I agree or disagree, I liked this, I didn't like this, or a summary of what we've read? You don't need to do a summary of what we've read because we've all read it. Furthermore, is this my own work? It should be. I've had issues this year in other classes with people not doing their own work or plagiarizing, and it does not serve anyone well. And then for extra points, have I engaged with other students' posts by leaving comments or replying to their posts? And if you have not met all of that criteria, you will not receive full points for the discussion post. So anytime we do a discussion post, take a look back at this and double check to see if you've done all that stuff. So I went ahead and published the one for tomorrow so that we could look at it and you could ask any questions if you had them. It's under Canterbury Prologue discussion post. And you're answering 3 things and you have 200 words. So that's not going to be hard to meet 200 words considering you have multiple questions here to answer. So the first thing is you're going to choose one character from the prologue and use that description of the character to predict what type of story you think they might tell. We talked about like the structure of Canterbury Tales all in all, and all these characters we're meeting later on past what we're going to read, they each have their own story to tell as they're like walking to Canterbury. So judging on what we have learned of them from the prologue, oh, here comes Eli. Based on what we've learned of them from the prologue, what kind of story do you think they're going to tell? Given the descriptions, what type of story would you expect them to tell? You can talk about genre, style, sophistication, subject, theme, any of that stuff, and use details to support your prediction. Sorry, I actually didn't mean to leave this in here. Oop. A couple of things I didn't mean to leave. It's okay. We'll just fix that. The second thing, take a closer look at the contradiction of one character. We talked about how the characters kind of contradict what you would think someone of their position would be like. Chaucer created characters that possess qualities, characteristics, physical attributes, etc., that seem to contradict their profession or their social status or their gender. Like the cook has a festering wound on his leg. That's kind of gross and not super sanitary to be a cook, but we didn't really discuss that, so that was one of the reasons that I put it in here, because I didn't want to give you answers for ones that we did talk about. So you're going to choose one character described in the prologue and analyze the contradictions in his or her character, and why do you think that he put these contradictions in. And the third thing, is there a character described in the prologue who does not possess a character flaw or contradiction in character? You could answer that one even in a sentence, honestly. And then when you're finished with that, you're going to read through lines 734 in the Canterbury Tales, and we'll pick up from there on Thursday. So like I said, I'm publishing this now, so you do have a little bit more time than you normally would. But I also wanted to show you, wait, where does it say? I might have to look back in here. I'm sure when you look at it from your student view, it'll tell you when it's due. Normally on a Wednesday, I would have it due at the end of class, because we should use our class time to work on this. No, not 200 words for each, 200 words for the whole thing. Good question. But I have this due by class time on Thursday. So just make sure that you get it done. And like I said, I published it now, so you can actually get a head start on it if you want to. And if you complete it, you won't actually have anything to do for this class tomorrow. But I wanted to make sure to give you guys time in class today to work on your modern day Pilgrim assignment. So are there any questions about the modern day Pilgrim assignment or about how tomorrow is going to work or what's expected of you tomorrow?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, well, in that case, you are free to sign off the call and work independently on your, the Pilgrim assignment is due on Friday, Friday night. Wait, let me double check. Don't quote me. I'm pretty sure that's right. Because you're just writing rhyming couplets. Yes, October 16th. Okay, so if there's no more questions, you can sign off and work independently on this. I'll be on the call until 9:59. If you have any more questions, you can feel free to sign back in, or you can stay signed in if you want while you're working on it. Up to you. But spend the rest of the time working on on your modern day pilgrim. If you get done with that, you can work on tomorrow's stuff too. I will see you guys in person Thursday.
All right. See you.
Miss McCullen,
Yes, sir.
discussion. It says available until October the 15th at 9:10.
Yes. So that's actually your work for tomorrow. So you should finish it before class on Thursday. The other thing is what's due on Friday.
This is due the 14th.
The discussion post,
Yeah,
it's due by class time on Thursday, which is the 15th.
but we can't look at it. It
Oh
says
wait, you can't look at it yet?
no. It says available until October the 15th at 9:10.
Yeah, you should be able to see it now, and then it would close after 9:10.
Yeah, I don't see it at all.
What the heck? What does it look like when you open Canterbury Prologue discussion post?
Like I'm clicking it and it says
Hmm.
never mind. I see. I got it now.
Oh, okay. Perfect.